Greeting YouTube. I have linked to a video and I need you to go look at it. It's not a very long one. It's a video of an art installation. And for you to understand what I'm about to talk about in this video, you have to see that first. That is the foundation from which I am going to be discussing it. It was called the Pointillisme, which I think I am butchering. It's not English. I don't speak any other language from English unless you consider Dungeons and Dragons to be a second language. Um, But in essence, it is a crystal matrix that is very cool looking. Okay, so now go look at it, then come back. Got it? Good. Okay, so now I'm making the assumption you have seen the video. That matrix shown in the video has been living inside my skull for 40 years. Now, I didn't envision it as a art installation. I envisioned it as a representation of life. And what do I mean by that? I'm not sure where it came from. It may have come just sprung out of my own particular brain wiring when I was thinking about evolution as I was learning about evolution in my 20s. Uh, at 19 and 20, I started reading about evolution and doing some deep diving into the present research of that time, and eventually I got into deeper levels where I went back and read Darwin's original work and things like that. So I have a really solid foundation for a layperson on when it comes to evolutionary theory. I'm not a scientist, but I do have a pretty solid foundation in this. And I imagined this matrix in my head where each of those little dots represented a life form, one species of creature, one unique genetic code of a species. That if you were to sample that DNA, you would know specifically what that animal is. Okay? And I imagined it as being colored. Now, some of them were going to be green, present day animals. Those green dots in that matrix spheres represent existing animals. They all kinds of dots all around you. You'd be surrounded by them. You would be one of them as a human being. You'd be represented by one of those dots. So if you wanted to really get down into it, you could imagine you are a sphere staring around at this matrix around you. And then there would be red ones. And the red ones represent extinct species, ones that didn't make it. And there's going to be far more of those further away from you because time has passed. And as time, I imagine time moving this way. But there's going to be a whole lot of gray ones. And the gray ones are the possible ones. And the gray ones are going to outnumber the red and the green by multitudes. There are an infinite number of those little gray spheres, each one representing a life form that is conceivable, that could exist, but doesn't. And that's what I found fascinating with this. Because as I began to learn about evolution and learn about how all these little offshoots and like, okay, that particular branch of the evolutionary tree kind of wilted off pretty damn quick. It just didn't work. It was outdone by all these other branches that were just more efficient at it. And you see this kind of thing in the evolutionary research done because you see all these evidence of the creatures that just didn't make it through different particular crises that happened on our planet. Different things happen, whether catastrophic changes because of volcanoes or meteors or plate tectonics. So lots of creatures didn't make it through those evolutionary filters. I hesitate to use the term of natural selection because I despise it. I think it was a poor choice of Darwin chose a poor choice of term to use because natural selection implies a selector. It implies that something did the selecting, even if that is a colloquial interpretation of the word selection. I prefer the concept of natural filtering because filtering can take place and there's no interaction with anyone making a choice. Filtering just happens. And that's how nature works. There is nobody deciding some creatures make it and some plants don't, or things like that. It's just that sometimes things change and they don't change fast enough or in the right way, or other creatures can take advantage of those changes in a way that maybe they weren't doing so well, and suddenly, wow, I actually am more adapted to this changing situation than I was from the previous one before that. Cool. And then they move off and you have a total new branch on that tree. But for me, all those gray potentials were what was the fascinating bit. And that's what, in my love of science fiction, I always wanted to see people creating. I want to see the genetically designed plants and animals that don't exist, but can. I am very much of the philosophy that if you can do it, maybe we should give it a try. Yes, I would make a great mad scientist. Why'd you do that? Well, because I could. Exactly. That's where my brain went when I started to study evolutionary theory. I want to see all the stuff that hasn't happened but could happen. And so that art piece in that video is the exact matrix I have been having living inside my skull for 4 decades. And when I saw that video, it just made me smile so damn much. It was, not to mention, it is a beautiful piece of art. Okay, it is absolutely a beautiful piece of art, beautifully executed. Just, it's a visual joy to gaze upon. But it's a physical object that represents something that I have had living inside my skull for 4 decades. So that was pretty cool. All right, so let's discuss art and evolutionary theory and how these things intersect in your life, if at all.